Well, I've just been talking to myself for the last 10 minutes, and what I was saying is this is part of box 29, and our mystery benefactor, who sent the quite a few sets now, and sent the Maxcom 7E, which we looked at yesterday. Part of that was an instruction book for the Maxcom 7E, which is immaculate. So I've been able to scan it at high resolution, and we discovered from this that in fact it's 13.2 volts. I was scared it didn't go above 12, but it is 13.2, so you can run it from a vehicle with the engine running. We did test it yesterday at 13.8. The radio did 4 watts. When we did the scratchy corner test, we were running it at 12.4 volts, and the radio was doing 3.5 watts, but it worked absolutely fine. And there we are. So we've got a nice copy of that. He also sent a copy of the CB radio license from 1981. At that time it was £10. Eventually it went up to 12 and then through to 15. Exactly the same as the ham radio license at the time. I had, believe it or not, I had license number 007, and I felt like James Bond. And that was totally random. It's just I got it from, I think it was New Ollerton Post Office on the way back from doing an organ job. So I called in with my Harvard 020. Came out of the post office with my license, pulled the aerial up, said it was 2 channels on 14 and 19, went 14 and a Roger or 19 and a Roger, whichever it was, and the boy came back to me, who was about 16, and I was his first contact on his Bannerton Route 66 at New Ollerton, so there we are. The license then went, it's free, so radio license for citizens band radio and radio license for amateur radio are these days free in the UK. There is still a license, but you are assumed to have got a license because every citizen is allowed to have a license, but that license can be revoked. So it's all right thinking you can break the rules because there's no license. There is a license, but and it can revoke it. So we've got this Midland 77 805 porter pack, and it's come body only, but in there he's got 3 different microphones. Got a nice Midland mic, a Mustang type mic, and a generic Palmer mic. And then we've got a hard to get Amstrad type connector, and then he's got a bit of a loudspeaker which he was using with this with a jack on the end. So very useful, and thank you once again. And you have revealed your name as Alan, and I'll say thank you, Alan. So this is the second and final set out of box 29, and what we're going to do is just go through, and it's the version, it's the UK version, not the UKD version. So it's got a normal channel selector, and not one of these which starts off on channel 9, which you really don't want to happen. So I know somebody said we ought to have pre-printed forms, which would be handy, wouldn't it? But we haven't. I've got them somewhere. We did have pre-printed forms in the 80s. Oh, hymn numbers for February the 2nd, we can use that. So, Midland 77805. So, as it's arrived, let's see what it's doing. Switch on picture in picture. Here goes. Transmit. Well. Oh, I want to run this at 12.4 volts. There we are. And at 12.4 volts, it's 2.7 watts. Right. Deviation. Wallow. 1.8. That can come up. And let's look at where we are with the received audio. Make sure the signal generator is on frequency. No, it's just as we've switched it on. There we go. So we'll look at the synod meter. And we'll adjust the attenuator until we get to 12 dB. So right now it's 0.55. So that's absolutely fine. That power's on par with what you get out of a new set, which has never been adjusted. The difference between then and now is at least you can get them somewhere near 4 watts in the past, and these days a lot of them don't go beyond 3.6. Oh, despite them saying 20 watts on the case. Right, what are we doing? Oh, frequency. How about frequency? So what's it transmitting on? Let's have a look. 27.79156. It's a little bit high. And they've dropped with age, so we'll deal with that. So I've taken those screws out. So as far as I recall, without using the service manual, we're going to be going up there for transmit. I better put the soldering iron on because they're going to want a little bit of heat. So key up, go back to the first meter. And that's peak. That's peak. That's peak. That's peak. One of these is transmit power. These are quite big. I'll use a screwdriver. Is it that one? Don't think. Well, there is a transmit power one somewhere. I'm sure there is. I might end up having to look at the manual. So we're now just at 3 watts. We've got a as new in box one of these come in. So that's going to be interesting. There we go, 4 watts on 12.4 volts. Excellent. Just trim this one in case it's a bit interactive. Excellent. So on low power, let's see what it's doing. So it's doing 110 milliwatts. So one of these presets is going to be low power. It's that one. There we go. So for those of you who didn't know about the switch at the back, it's high-low power. So 4 watts and 0.4. So it's a good battery save if you don't need 4 watts. Let's just pop it on frequency. This was near enough not to worry about. Just leave it there, very slightly high. Well, it's about gone on, hasn't it? So we've now got 4 watts. We've now got 27.79126. That's that done, that's that done. Deviation, have to remember where that is. think they're meters. So let's go for that. Because at the moment, when we key up, it's a full set. So the way this is set, subject to me finding the right preset, we're going to low power and it's supposed to be one light, which is actually right. But just for the video, we'll upset it. So it is that back one as I thought it was. So there we go. Just there we are, one light, back to full power, all lights. So it's the preset back there. So one of these is deviation, one of these is going to be squelch, and I can't remember which. So let's get the little Korg chromatic tuner out we use as an oscillator. See what the deviation is. I don't know why I'm showing the wrong meter. I think it's this one. But I think wrong. It must be this one. Wallow. It's a little tiny bit high. Wallow. That's better. So we've now got 2.2 average with a 2.5 maximum. Well, I think we've done everything there is to do on transmit. So we'll go over to receive. I've not put the air conditioning on in here, I'm going to have to. Right, hopefully ours will stop melting. So first we need to do is find a detector. So with an S9 equivalent signal of 100 microvolts on the signal generator, we'll now look at the oscilloscope. We'll pop the bench light off. It's just done, it was absolutely spot on. Turn the oscilloscope off, save 18 watts. Right, we'll turn the signal generator down so we can get about 4 dB on the synod meter, so we're not saturating the receiver. We can also turn the volume down a little bit. And now we'll run through the receiver. Wow, that was a dramatic difference. Just going to back check that one. Right, we'll get a new synod reading. And we're at between 4 and 5. So we've brought that down to 0.45 microvolts. So there we are. That's a significant improvement. Thing is, you don't get this big an advantage. You know, we were doing those Uniden sets at the weekend, and you know, like 1 microvolt and things like that. You think, oh, that's pretty crummy, but in fact, the noise floor is such that if you've got radios with 0.2 of a microvolt, you're not really going to be benefiting because of the noise floor. So that's covered that. Let's have a look at where we are with S9. and it's lighting 3 bars, which is what you'd expect, but just for the demonstration it's going to be that preset. In fact, I've now got that at full, and that's about where we want it to be. So plus 30 comes in. So it did need a little bit of a twiddle there. And that leaves us with Squelch. So we're going to put the Squelch to full. There we go. And what I'd like to happen is for the Squelch to open when we get to 100 microvolts, so S9 equivalent. 1 microvolt, 3, 10, 30, 100. It's not come in. Let's see where it does come in. It comes in at 1 millivolt, which is far too much. So we need to back that off. I've already forgotten which one it was. I really don't know which one I'm at. That is the Squelch. I didn't want to upset deviation. So that is less sensitive. So we'll have that at full. It's not quite where I want it to be, but that's at full. We're not going to quibble over it. I'll tell you when it's coming in. So I said I'd like it to be 100 microvolts, which is S9. So it's coming in at, when I tell you where we are, that's 200 microvolts, 300 microvolts, 400 microvolts. It's coming in at 450 microvolts. But then it's dropping off about 100 microvolts. So at the sensitive end, which is the more important bit, we'll turn the signal generator to standby, park it at 0.3 of a microvolt, put the set the Squelch to threshold, switch the signal generator back on. See when it comes in. So the Squelch is opening at 0.7 of a microvolt, and it's saying goodbye to us at 0.4 of a microvolt, which is quite a good hysteresis. Let's see what we can hear this set down to. So I'll turn the Squelch down. So that's 0.3 of a microvolt. So we can hear it down to about 0.25 of a microvolt. So it's a nice and sensitive set. And I'm glad we've been able to improve it a little bit. So, with that, there's nothing more to it than put it together. Remember, these don't have a built-in speaker. They're supposed to be used with a speaker mic, which this isn't. It's just an ordinary mic. So you can use it with an extension speaker. And we will be doing just that in a moment when I screw it back together. Now some of the later Midlands, like the 099, seem to suffer from dry joints. Not because they weren't soldered properly, but because the components weren't cleaned properly when they were inserted. So these don't seem to suffer from dry joints. So it seems to be after the Baby Midland era, because there's also the version of this which is the 77104, the Baby Midland. And I did have one of those in a CPT version once, but I think it went missing. Not that I want it back. There we go. So we'll unplug it from the test equipment, switch the test equipment off, unplug the test equipment speaker, switch picture in picture off, and we'll plug the aerial in. and we'll plug the extension speaker, which is mounted on the wall, in. One niner Roger. So as usual, somebody's just having a conversation on 19 instead of changing channel. But I know it's better than music playing and swearing. Right, there we have it. Midland 77 805 Porter Pack, but without the Porter Pack, and with a standard Midland mic. So thanks very much to Alan, the mystery benefactor from Lincolnshire. Greatly appreciated. And we'll be doing an on-the-air test later on. See you next time.